Today we're making a sugar cookie with white chocolate and peppermint on top. They're so delicious and it's gonna taste just like Christmas. Hi, I'm Cassie of Fed and Fit, and today I am showing you how to make these egg-free icebox style sugar cookies. They're so easy to make, and we're gonna decorate them with white chocolate and peppermint. Be sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss any of the videos we've got coming out for you over the next couple days and weeks. I'm gonna get you prepped and ready with the best cookie recipes for the holidays. Let's bake cookies! I'm so excited to be in the kitchen and to bake with you today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk together our dry ingredients. And whenever we're baking cookies, that's the best way to think about the stages of pulling together cookies, is to think whisk together the dry, and then we're going to combine the wet. But with a side note, today we're going to whip the butter and the sugar together to just create a fluffier cookie. And then we'll fold in the rest of the ingredients and bam, we've got dough. Okay, so to this flour, what I'm using is an all-purpose gluten-free flour mix. It's my favorite. I'm gluten-free because I have to be, but this recipe will work if you're using any all-purpose flour mixture. So I've got baking powder in here and baking soda, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. And I'm going to whisk this together in this tiny bowl. Just kidding. I would use a slightly larger bowl if I were you, but we're all out of bowls today. But I figured this one would be fun. Only a little bit's falling out. This is why I'm not that great at baking, because I do things like this. Okay, in this big old bowl, now we're gonna add our softened butter into this bowl and the white sugar. And I'll tell you the truth, I would normally skip this step. I would normally say like, I'm just gonna mash it together and call it a day. But I will say that when we're able to whip the sugar with the softened butter together, it creates so much yummy, fluffy air in our cookie. And you're going to get a chewier, fluffier cookie out of it. It's gonna be worth it. Give it a try. You can do it one of two ways. You can use a hand mixer like I've got here, or you could whip out your stand mixer and put on that whisk attachment, and then just whisk it until you have a nice even consistency. Okay, so our butter and sugar is whipped, and what you're looking for is this paste-like consistency. Applesauce is heading in. This is an egg-free cookie recipe, and so usually whenever you see an egg-free cookie recipe, it means two things. You can eat the dough. You could eat any dough you want, but people freak out less if it doesn't have eggs in it. And also, it probably means it's gonna call for applesauce, because it actually has a very similar impact on the chemistry of a cookie. And then a little bit of vanilla extract. So remember, liquids, we're mixing all that together. That's the first stage, and I'm just gonna give it a good little turn with the spatula until everything looks nice and even. And now our flour mixture is headed in. And I'm just kind of smashing as I turn it over to make sure there's no clumps of flour, and then the rest goes in. You could definitely still do this in your stand mixer. Just make sure you transition from the whisk attachment when you were whipping up the butter and the sugar to your paddle attachment. You want the paddle attachment when you're folding in all the dry ingredients. Okay, so the icebox portion of these icebox cookies, all that means is that they're going to set in the refrigerator first. That's all it means. So I'm just going to scoop this dough right here into the middle of my parchment. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I'm going to use the parchment to help shape this dough into a little log. Think the cookie dough, logs of cookie dough that you might find in the freezer or the refrigerator section at the grocery store. That's what we're going for here. So I'm just going to start by folding it over and then just kind of pinching and trying to move the dough out as we roll. You can always re-roll it if it's not a shape you like. And this, we're gonna make the perfect shape so we can slice and bake in a little bit. Now, so this dough is really soft, and technically you could bake it, you're just not gonna get that really chewy texture that you're gonna want in this cookie. So I recommend putting this in the refrigerator, in your icebox, as my grandmother would say, for at least an hour to allow the butter to firm up again. That's what we're going for. Or you could also pop it in the freezer if you really wanna speed the process up to a day. But of course, if you're my Grandma Lois, you did this in July preparing for Christmas in December. But that's not us. We're gonna eat these later today. Into the fridge. Okay, cookies are out of the oven and cooled and beautiful, and I am placing them back on the sheet pan where I baked them with that parchment paper because we're gonna decorate them, and I don't wanna get those decorations all over my countertop. We're gonna decorate them with two delicious things, very messy. So I've got some melted white chocolate here. And the way that I got this kind of drippy consistency, so melting white chocolate, you have a couple options. You can either melt it over a double boiler, or you can microwave it for 30-second increments. But after your first minute, I would go down to 10-second increments, because cocoa it's just really easy to burn in the microwave, and you know you've burnt it when it starts to seize back up and smell burnt. That'll be your first giveaway. But our trick of making this kind of like really spreadable chocolate that we're gonna drizzle all over is to add coconut oil in with the white chocolate as you melt it, and that'll help make a really nice spreadable consistency. I'm gonna chop up our candy canes. I'm gonna do 3 of them. Just get your favorite cutting board out and a nice sharp knife and get after it. Okay, now with our nice silky smooth milk chocolate, or white chocolate, I'm gonna go ahead and do some drizzling on our cookies. Just a nice little sprinkling. Start off with the bigger pieces to make sure there's an even amount on each cookie, and then I'll go back over with a little dust to make sure they all get a good, even dusting. I cannot wait to dig into these cookies. They're my favorite. Be sure to check out the other video on your screen right now where I give you my top tips for getting ahead in the holiday season. Everything from making your cookie dough in advance, pies in advance, sides, casseroles, you name it. Watch that right away.